Hello and welcome, finally, to the first episode of Underwhelming Barrage. This show is, what, CJ? 1 year in the making,
Yep.
probably at least,
Oh, at
and
least the last Gen Con last year.
Gen Con last year, and we are here. And today, something special for you guys for this very first episode. I got four special guests, my friends, Ian, Tyler, CJ, and Andrew. So we got reps from the Bothan Network, from McClunky, KTOD, Secret. We're all here. Tyler, fresh off of a PQ win, finally. How do you
Yeah,
feel?
finally. Yeah, Bubble Boy no longer. 15 or so events. Finally, we take one. Had to
Finally.
randomly pick a random deck to do it, but
Yeah.
we take it.
And Ian, you're even fresher off of a PQ win. How's it feel to
Yep.
get your third?
Just another day in the office. Going down to Louisville. It was fun. Didn't really plan anything in advance. Just kind of took my deck from Minneapolis, that where I didn't do well. Didn't even make day
Right.
two, and then
Love it.
just scooted through the. I didn't have any actual losses. I conceded to a teammate like Alex would.
Oh,
In
concession.
Swiss.
Man,
Yeah.
gotta take already taking points away. CJ, CJ, man, look at this. Coming off of a top eight at a regional.
Top 8 regional. Haven't seen my prizes though, Tata, so might
Still
not be
waiting
going to
for your
Worlds.
flight prize. I think they
Still
maybe,
waiting.
forgot about you. They're like, no way this guy can make a top eight.
That's all right. You spelt it wrong anyway. It's KOTD. Don't forget.
KOTD. My bad. And then finally, we have Andrew coming off of, well, anyway, thanks for being on the show, Andrew.
Ouch.
Anyway, you guys doing all right tonight? You ready to do this?
Yes.
Alrighty.
Ready to get
Yeah,
going.
man. It's gonna be fun.
Excellent. So let me just explain the rules real quick. So I know a lot of people have watched the ESPN show called Around the Horn, one of my all-time favorite shows. So we just kind of got our heads together and said, you know what, that'd probably be awesome in Star Wars form. So that's what we're going to do tonight. So the rules are pretty simple. There's a handful of topics that you see on the screen here. The four guests are going to debate these topics one at a time, and I will be giving out points pretty much subjectively. And whoever has the most points at the end of the show gets to win and have their 30 seconds of face time to do whatever they want. Pretty simple concept. Should be a lot of fun. Get to debate some cool topics, and we'll see how it goes. So, you guys ready to jump into this?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
All right. First topic, and we will start with the person who has won the most recent PQ. So, Ian, let's jump right into this. One with
All
the
right.
force. So, there's been a lot of discussion lately regarding force throw being possibly preemptively added to a ban list. I don't necessarily agree, but how do you feel about a potential force throw ban or any other suspensions, we'll call it, for set five?
Yeah. I don't think there's anything that needs to be prematurely banned before the new set comes out. I mean, we only have half the spoilers right now, but I don't think there's anything that warrants that type of uh really large type of thing to happen, like to the meta. Because I mean, there's nothing like Django. Like Django, you just saw like every spoiler for set four, and it was just like, oh, that's a Django card. Oh, that's a Oh, that's really a Django card. And it kind of just was very obvious that like something was gonna need to happen to Django eventually. So like in that case, I thought maybe it would be fine to pre-ban stuff. Um, but I don't think there's anything in the meta right now that would be needing to be banned. I think Force Throw obviously is like on the watch list or whatever, but I don't know if everybody's playing all these like ground Force Throw decks and stuff. Like I don't know, maybe people just play Vader 4 and just go in space and just crush you to death anyways. Like I don't know. There's got to be strategies to beat that.
Yeah, Space Decks might be pretty strong moving into next set. Tyler, what do you think?
A little biased. I play the card one time and it wins me an event, but it definitely helps in that sense. I am also the same idea that I don't think anything's an issue with it. You know, it's been fine for a long time. There, you really need a very specific deck to be able to run the card. I don't know how too many of the new sets can even want to run a red base for Force Throw. I've been seeing a lot of green and blue, a lot more just traditionally classic, heroism. So we'll see. I don't think anything needs to happen. We come in past Vegas and it's like top 8, top 16, all just Force Throw, force decks, Eldrazi Winter, like stuff. Then yeah, then we can probably see a ban quite quickly. But I think we're chilling for now.
Well, let's hope we don't get the top 16 of Vegas being all 16 four-star decks. That won't be fun for anyone. CJ, what do you think?
Yeah, I got to agree with my competitors here. I trust Papa FFG and their playtesters. They've never done us wrong in the past. But also, if you look at the card Force Throw, right, the biggest argument not to ban it, in my opinion, is the card does have a lot of decision making behind it in both how your deck is constructed as well as in the moment which opponent you target to discard. Right, you can build your deck where you're going to get advantage from having your opponent discard, but you're going to take the risk that they may or may not have the right cost to actually impact the board. That could pay off if you have Tarkin Town, right, which helps you, or if you're playing against a deck like Han that keeps very low amount of cards in their hand. But into a deck like Sabine or a more lower to the ground aggro deck, you have to know, do I need to remove that threat? Do I have to discard a card from my hand? Is that 7 attack leader that powerful that I need to discard my own Luke? Those type of decisions are very fun to me in the moment in the game. And I don't want to see those going anywhere unless, of course, it does become the top 16 decks at Worlds. But let's let that play out. Let's give the players a chance.
Those are great points. Andrew, what do you think?
Yeah, I think Force Throw is a little broken, but I don't think it should be banned. I think, we saw it in Quinlan. It's really, really strong when you pair it with other discard, right? So like you kind of, double down on it. It becomes like even stronger when you can disrupt their hand in other ways and limit their options around what they can like actually discard. I think the only thing that's like might be concerning is like there are some one cost force units like the new Annie unit that has like the shield and is hidden. So like, playing that and force throwing on round 1, I think, could be really, really strong because it's hard to play around it, right? Like you can resource, but like your hand is so small, maneuvering around that, like, and saving your round 1 play, I think is kind of oppressive, but it depends on what kind of shell that's in. So I think, I don't think we should ban it. I think we should see, but it could be very strong.
Yeah, I totally agree. I don't think anything needs suspended right away moving into set 5, but we'll have to wait till Worlds to see kind of what the format looks like and take action from there.
And Todd, if people want to play a 1-1 for 1 against me, I'm all for it. Let's go play that 1-1. I'm sure you'll win plenty of games.
Right. I think the other thing is I think when you see Force Throw be as oppressive as it can be, it's against decks that aren't also playing Force Throw. Because it's just the obvious card that you would discard from your own hands. Like in that top 16 where it's all Force Throw decks, Force Throw is probably one of the worst cards in that matchup because they're just going to discard their own Force Throw. It's doing 1 damage every single time.
Yeah.
And I also think that if they're not playing yellow and have a bunch of other discard effects, the power of Force Throw goes down a lot. Like Quinlan is a discard deck, and its Force Throw is better because of the other discard cards.
Yeah, totally agree. So moving into the next topic, we have collecting data. So this is just a topic based on the card data vault. So lately we have seen a pretty big resurgence in, well, I wouldn't say resurgence, I guess just some surge in data vault decks. It's kind of taken over the meta in a way. I think Minnesota was around 40% data vault decks in day 2. I mean, that's kind of crazy, even though I think only 2 of them made top 8. Tyler, what do you think about this craze?
I think it's the biggest question in this game currently. It's the real question. Does it actually provide something beneficial, making your deck worse? The biggest correlation I have comparison to other card games is we don't really have a true to form combo deck in this game at the moment. Nothing really cares about having 1 or 2. The biggest is like resupply in the the for ramp, but most of the time I think they're just fine with the value. Is 3 health worth it? I don't know. There could also just be a case where, even other colors could just play 10 more cards just to have the more varied options, to draw into. But it's such an unknown quantity.
Yeah, Yeah, CJ, what do you think?
Man, if only we had something like I don't know, mathematics to look at, and maybe some calculators to run the actual odds and how it affects deck building. No, but I do think it's a little bit of a craze right now. Two big things, right? There are some decks where it's very powerful, like Ray, no brainer to me. The Ray Green deck plays a lot of redundant threats, and what I mean by that is a lot of their cards are just crappy little dudes. Doesn't matter which one you have; they all relatively do the same thing. They restore one, they get like small amounts of value, and your leader is able to maximize that efficiency. So running 60 cards to get 3 health makes a ton of sense there. But when you're playing a deck where you might need a specific card, or you might need a specific 2 copies, right? If you're playing a deck that really needs to timely a threat, right? Really hard to draw timely and your wrecker, right? Yeah, you might get lucky a couple games, but if you extrapolate that out over a long tournament, I think it's just a feels bad. I don't think it's very smart deck building. I think you got to know when to use it. And I do think using that instead of base like ECL removes some skill expression too. So it makes it easier to play your deck because you have one less decision to make. And that decision gets you 8 health for you not making a decision, right? Whereas if you're 25 HP, you got to make the right call. If you make the wrong call, you might lose. So
Yeah.
I do think there's a lot of variables there.
So in the top 8 of the event Tyler just won, Alex's opponent in the top 8 was Han One Data Vault, and he had 2 resupplies game 1 and 2. So clearly, that's not the issue. But well,
Did he win?
he did not.
Oh,
He did not. He did beat me though. It was my only match loss.
That's true. That's true. Andrew, what do you think about Data Vault?
I think Data Vault's quite strong, and this is coming from somebody that would rather be playing ECL, like rather be playing like a fight for the board kind of like meta. I think the difference for me, like from Richmond to Minneapolis, it felt like things slowed down a little bit because we saw a lot more Ray, we saw a lot more Kira, even Vader, which is like an aggro deck. I still feel like is like can be a little slower if you're interacting with it compared to like Sabine or some of the other faster aggro decks. So overall, yeah, like I would, I'm kind of looking forward to the next set. Like I'm hoping people are going to be on like the 4 spaces and it's more like 25, 28 health where it's like a little bit, scrappier personally. But yeah, it's not really my play style, but I do think it's very strong, especially like for some of the popular archetypes right now.
Yeah. Ian?
Well, if anybody knows about any content I've ever made, which I may or may not have made content in my time, I am a Data Vault hater, certified. I hang it up at my desk. It's certified by Harvard, so it's official. I think that most decks that play Data Vault should not be running Data Vault. I think that oftentimes the times where you get to that 31 point threshold and like, oh, I would have died if I just played a 30 HP base. It's like, yeah, but like how many of those times could you have just been more consistent on your cost curve and drawn the better cards in the right time and then avoided being at 31? So like it's such an unquantifiable thing in that way. Like I don't like that argument that people use. It's like, oh well, if I didn't have 33 HP, I would have lost. I think that's like a BS argument. I do think that if you want to if you're a deck that traditionally struggled against like hard control or like mill type strategies, like Blue Green Hero would never beat control decks prior to Data Vault because they would just get milled out and they just didn't have enough threats. But for those decks now, they have 10 extra cards. It's a lot harder to mill them out. They can't screw themselves by like home one into tech and like tech value train just turning through their deck, or like Bright Hopes bouncing Mon Mothmas. Like you can't deck yourself now. So that's like the better, like that's actually a benefit of Data Vault, using the 60 cards to your advantage. But I think the concept of like, oh well, I'm like this I'm like this really control deck and I lose to Sabine a lot, so I need like the 3 extra HP. It's like if you just were more consistent on putting better cards in that matchup in your main deck, I think you would have a better time.
Yeah, no, I mean those were all really great points. I love Data Vault myself. I feel like just being able to add like the top end to my like Ray decks and my Kira decks is just such a huge benefit. But your miles may vary. Maybe that's just like recency bias and like my results say that it's good, but maybe it's actually really
Sure.
not. So.
Every time I play Data Vault, dude, I swear I just like draw 5 7s in my opening hand or some crazy stuff, and then I'm playing resupply decks, I'm playing green, and I just never see resupply. I didn't have a problem with that with Han 1 green. I'm just saying.
Ian, that's really interesting. Man, I really do wish we had some kind of calculator that we could input the amount of cards we have and how much we draw over the course of a game, and it would tell us the odds of that. Man, one day we'll have
If only,
that,
right?
If
So
only.
that's a great segue from going into a 33 health discussion to a 25 health discussion. Guys, where are the 25 HP bases? They have just completely vanished. Yeah, vanished from the meta almost completely. We have Quinlan Tarkentown as like the sole Tarkentown deck left. Well, Cat, I guess, as well. And Sabine
Nah,
as like
don't
the
even give the
only
cat
ECL
players
deck.
that
Right.
little
So,
ray of hope.
yeah, so I mean, Ian, take it away. Where are these 25 health bases? Are we going to see an uptick in them in set 5 with the new force bases, maybe?
So my theory on this was actually part of the end of set 3. So like at the very beginning of set 3, Tarkentown was everywhere. I think that specifically Cat and Quinlan were super well positioned because at the time the Sabine players didn't really know how to play into that matchup. And I'm not saying every Sabine player, but like at large, the Sabine players didn't know how. And I think honestly, on the back of Chrono and everybody else in the K2D Green Sabine chat, figured out those matchups. And instead of being like a 30-70, they became 70-30 into Sabine's favor. And that made those decks much harder to play into the meta. And because of specifically Sabine and kind of like the masses kind of figuring that out, by the end of set 3, I don't think that those were good matchups for against Sabine anymore. So like they were already on the downtrend, and then when you added into like the Django meta at the beginning of the set, it was just Django was so oppressive, so it was everywhere. That was really just one deck playing it, and then once Django went away, I think it kind of went back into like the end of set 3 just with new cards, and people kind of realized that you can't really play 25 HP bases if Sabine is ever present in the format. And look at what won the first sector after Django left, right? In the US. It was Sabine ECL. Like
Yeah,
it
I actually personally think that the DJ suspension kind of phased out the 25 health bases more than Django's did because you're able to play these slower data vault decks, now that there's no DJ. But, who knows what the cause is, but you're right on that Django took most of those Tarkentown decks, and that's kind of why maybe it seemed like there were more than there really were. So, Andrew, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think I would definitely like to see, if the force synergies are pushed and strong enough, and there's enough of an incentive to play those packages, then those bases will get played, right? I mean, that's just kind of like the bottom line here. If set 5 ends up being underwhelming, then everyone's gonna be playing Data Vault, I feel like. So I'm hoping that some of the cards look pretty interesting, and there's still a lot to be revealed. So hopefully we continue to get strong cards with force payoffs, so people are incentivized to play those bases. But I do agree with what you and Ian just said regarding like the meta shift and also DJ being phased out. Just kind of favors like a lot of these slower decks. But I think the decision points around like those rare bases or the 28 health bases we're going to see, or ECL versus Tarkentown, like having all of those available in set 5, I think is really interesting. Like people have been talking about, for example, like Quinlan. Quinlan has incredible stats. He's force traded. Like he's probably going to be positioned well into set 5. Like, do you run something other than Tarkentown with him? Like just because he's so strong, that's an interesting idea. So yeah, I'm hoping that like everything is accessible. We have options on the table, and we're not just all playing like Data Vault and Colossus next set.
God, I hope not. CJ, what do you think?
No, I mean, come on. Look at the last big tournament in the United States, right? In Minnesota, 4 out of the top 8 decks at the tournament were running 25 HP, right? It hasn't gone anywhere. Like we can say that the decks that want to run it have definitely decreased in numbers, but the strength of the decks that run it is still extremely powerful. Almost all the 25 base HP bases, it's like you get an extra card in hand, right? Like ECL is like you have a timely intervention that costs 0. Tarkentown's like you got a lightning bolt, right? There's like an extra card you get for that cost. and it does require some deck building. And of course, it does make another decision point that's extremely important in the matchups at the right time. So it is a little bit harder to play, right? And it's a little bit harder into a wide open meta, especially for decks like Quinlan and CAD, where you have to build your deck to have the right threats to the overarching meta and what's going on. I don't think it's going anywhere, though. If anything, I think it gets a little more powerful. We have new cards like Mace coming in. We have a bunch of new cards that do ping damage. We have Vader. Like, ECL's not going anywhere. Tarkentown's not going anywhere. Of course, no one's playing the yellow one that I don't even know the name of, and no one's playing Security Complex. But the other ones, you'll see them. I promise you.
Yeah, those are good points, Tyler.
Yeah, to like back that up, the 25 health bases have always been just super situationally like built in decks. Like even back in set one, when ECL was played, Tarkentown wasn't even touched yet. You were just ECLing Steadfast, and that was it. That's all every deck did. Boba Green, Sabine, they were just ECLing Steadfast. Come in set two, and now ECL's got new targets. We've gone off of ECL off of Boba, and it's only just been Sabine because you had Wrecker and you had Poe, and that was it. And then we came in. Now we have Cad Bane, and we had Django, and we had Quinlan. We had pingers at least built together for Tarkentown. You remove Django, great. There goes Tarkentown. You have, the closest next one was Luke. I've seen the Europeans playing like one rare, case of a double red, but double red has not been the good color pairing at all. We've seen this so far this past year. I do believe that we'll definitely see more. I think there's definitely probably going to be ECL coming back. I don't know if Kira is going to be the leader of that, but Vader has to get ECL at least once. It seems way too insane to not be put into a deck solely to be ECL'd.
It's a 2 for 1 every time.
That Vader's
if
crazy.
not 3 for 1,
Sometimes, yeah.
3 for 1.
And he doesn't die. He doesn't take any damage on the ECL attack if you want him to. Like, you can just 1 for 1 and have him at full life.
These bases are entirely situational. I can see the force ones coming in as well. If you can find the issue with, lesser life totals is you have to put an aggressive spin on it. Because if you just sit there, you'll get run over by the aggressive decks. You can't really play control with the cheaper health. I played Boba Green in set 1. I can tell you that you had to put your balls to the wall when you had, ECL. You could not sit there. Otherwise, Sabine would just roll you. But the force decks, we'll see. A lot of, the force decks, it seems is going to be a lot more, slower control, variant, a lot more of the heroism style I've seen, like Avar, Chris and stuff, where like you're kind of just doing the classic, heroism, chill, and then overwhelm you. We'll see.
Yeah, and thanks to Tyler and Andrew for actually mentioning the force bases. So Ian and CJ, you guys just lose points.
I was just gonna say, I think that all of the 25 HP force bases are trash.
I think that's wrong. I think that's wrong.
It's a hot take.
Points for that. That is a hot take. I think the blue one's actually great. Now, I don't think the yellow one's any good. The red one might have use, but I think the blue one's actually really good.
I think the blue and the green will be played.
I think Ian sleeping on the red one's pretty crazy, especially with what I know he likes to play. But
yeah, possibly. So
I actually have not tested the red one at all. I just conceptually think they suck.
So the next topic is intentional. So draws. So on Reddit, on Discords, everywhere, seems like every weekend, and especially after the sectors and the regionals, everyone complains about intentional draws. You don't see this a lot with the main competitive groups, but from among the mid-tier players, for lack of a better word, they just hate draws. What do you guys think about draws? Do you like them? Are they good for the game? CJ, what do you think?
Of course, they're good for the game just because of what the other option is if you don't have them. And I don't want this to come across wrong, but the reason why the competitive teams don't care about them is because they're the ones that are actually in the position to be able to leverage them. No one's drawing round 1, round 3, round 5, round 6. They're drawing round 14, round 13 when they've already gone X and 1, X and 2, X and 0 in the tournament. That's when you leverage them. You do the math, you look at the breakers, you see where you're at, you see if you're able to do it. It's how you maximize your ability to make the top cut. And, ultimately there is no collusion. That's not how this works. It doesn't matter what team you're on. It doesn't matter any of that. If you I come from Magic, right? Played that at a pretty high level. And I can tell you there are a lot of draws in that game. With your end of the day and you're both XO, you're not playing that game. You're not. You're going on to the top cut. Like, it's just how it works. That's how every game does it. It doesn't affect the tournament at all. Get over yourself. And if you think it does, guess what? Good news. You can go and win 12 rounds in a row. And if you can't win 12 rounds, then that rule's not for you. So don't worry about it. Like that. That's really
Yeah.
how
Good
I feel.
point.
Like, true.
I think most of the people that have this sort of like feeling, it's always people who are like at that bubble, or like they're like 5-2 in a PQ and they're like, oh man, if not everybody in front of me just drew, I might have had a shot. And it's like, yeah, sure, if everybody played their games and somehow the breakers flipped and you would have gotten in, but like at the same time, it's like you weren't in the position to be able to intentionally draw because you lost earlier, which meant your tournament was technically easier because you're playing against like people who already lost, which should mean that they are like worse players. Not always the case, right? Like I start 0-1 in tournaments and then have a nice run and you'll see me in the losers bracket or whatever, but like that doesn't necessarily mean that if you go like X2 that like someone IDing is stealing a spot from you. That's not how it works. You just the structure of it is basically that the tournament has already been decided, and that's why everybody IDs. Like that round basically just didn't need to happen.
Yeah, you made a good point with the X and twos, and that's what I was going to say as well. Is that people most of the time people who complain are the ones who are X and two, and they're like, "Oh, this person stole my spot because they drew," and it's like, well, you could have been X and one and
Right.
had a chance of playing top eight. Like
Eh.
if you're X and two in a 6 round tournament, like you shouldn't make top eight. Like someone needs to tell you that is that you should not be in the top eight. That's just
Yeah,
how
and in the
tournaments work.
situations where the X and 2 is going to make top cut, it's because they bubbled out, the X and 1 that then lost like last round of Swiss, like just the rarities of that situation are how the X and 2 makes in the first place. And so like, yeah, you got in, but then now you knocked this guy out who's been sitting on the top the entire time.
I do wonder, like, one of the things that Magic started doing at Pro Tours is once you get to a certain point threshold on the second day of competition, they actually just remove you from the tournament. Because they do the math ahead of time and they know that like 33 points or 36 points, whatever the point threshold is, required to top eight the event is, and they just remove you from the event. So you can't actually ID, which forces everybody below you to keep playing because they don't have the person who's already locked being able to ID with you. So I think that's a unique thing that like maybe we could leverage, but that's up to FFG at the end of the day. And the system that we have now isn't like broken or anything. It's been tried and true for like 30 plus years for card games. So
Eh,
I think it's just most of these people haven't played other card games and they just don't understand that this is just a very common thing and it's actually like the way that you should have tournaments run.
Ian, have you seen FFG run a tournament? You're going to trust them to do that math? Oh, man.
All
I
right.
mean, I know
Well,
they're learning.
you know who
But,
I do trust? I trust Jonah Kellerman, the head of the judge program, and
yes.
he runs hand in hand with the TOs at these major events. So
Yeah,
I think that he would be able to do the
Yep.
math.
Brad Nelson can do
Yeah.
the math. I trust
Yeah,
Brad Nelson.
Brad Nelson head of melee as well.
Right.
I agree. Like
Yeah.
there's ways that we can solve this. It's just how much do they want to solve it? But and they can't solve the problem of people not making day two who are X2 and bubbling people out when they shouldn't be. So like yeah, I agree. Giving it in the hands of FFG is not the best choice. But
Yeah, Andrew, what do you think?
Yeah, so dovetailing off what Ian just said, so from my personal experience, like this is like the first TCG that I played like competitively. So like I literally had to like, what is tournament math? Like what are IDs? Like what are double losses? Like this is all stuff I've had to learn. And I think after talking to players at these events that come up to us, the people that don't like understand it, they also don't have a lot of TCG experience, right? And I think after talking to other people that played Magic and other games, like I guess they always had the ID system, or like they had it for a very long time. So I think FFG starting with the double losses, which is in my understanding very like kind of not standard, and then kind of just recently switching to intentional draws is sort of like adding to like the friction point, right? Because it's newer for some of these players, and like they were like, okay, well, this is the system I've gotten used to for most of the game's life, and they're like, okay, well, now we're changing it. So I think that just kind of like has thrown a little like loop for some people. And then the only situation that I've seen that like technically is like a complaint is like, going back to the double loss system, going into the last round, since there was no way to draw intentionally or not, it could affect like how the tournament plays out, but that's only because we had a double loss system. So I do understand that there's like, especially people that maybe only go to like an event every so often, they're like, trying to understand the tournament math and stuff like that. And then they're like, okay, well, this is my understanding and blah, blah, blah. And then it's sort of like they feel thrashed because it's like, oh, well, now it's like totally different. And they might feel like, oh, this feels unfair because the person ahead of me ID'd, but like they would have had to play that match out a month ago. So I understand what they're saying, but to me, it's kind of more on FFG for starting with like this strange double loss system where you couldn't even like, draw one way or the other, and then sort of like switching now. Add on top of that everything that happened in Minneapolis, and it's just sort of that's kind of I think why some people feel the way they do.
Yeah, I mean, starting with double loss, which is in my opinion probably the worst possible outcome, probably wasn't the best thing. And then when you switch to IDs, like you said, it's like culture shock to a lot of people who maybe this is their first card game, like yourself. So yeah,
It's because they gave those 5 and 2 people like that hope, that sliver of hope that, oh, maybe my breakers could change so much that I'll get in now. When in reality, it should never have been that way, because what intentional draws actually do is make breakers less impactful to a tournament, because in that last round, the tournament should be essentially decided already, unless people intentionally draw when they shouldn't have, which then can have someone bubble. But at that point, it's like they made a choice to intentionally draw when they probably just shouldn't have, and they should have just played it out. But in the grand scheme of things, I think breakers actually matter less, which is, I think, a good thing. Like, players shouldn't want to be able to like not top at 8 a tournament because they were like 0.5% different on like opponent match win percentage, or God forbid they tie the first tiebreaker and they go to the second tiebreaker. That's like
sure. But I think my takeaway is like, but new players, like they're not going to understand all that, right? It's just all they know is this is how it was for 10 months and now it's this way, and it feels confusing or whatever.
So I do think as a solution too, like they could do what Magic has done in the past with their Pro Tour. They play best of 5s, right? In the top 8, or they used to. I'm not sure if they do anymore. But one of the rewards for basically being the highest seed was you got to go first, which mattered a lot. You got to choose to play or draw. And of course, of a 5-game set, it mattered a lot, right? Especially when you did 2 pre-board and the post-board. There's a lot of advantage there. They could implement something like that in their top cut where there is an advantage for seeding, but right now there is none, right? Other than you play the 8.
I think that would be really cool if seeding mattered somehow. Like, like that, like maybe something to play for, or like, the last couple rounds, you're like, oh, I could just ID in twice. I don't really care whether I'm 8th or 1st or whatever. Like, I think that could be an interesting little incentive for people to like decide maybe they want to play for like, first seed or whatever, if there is some kind of advantage. I think that'd be neat.
There is another really important factor we didn't talk about yet. And I know this happened to one of your teammates, Ian, but there were buys that were going to not only be for the top 8, but they come down based on people they pass down based on people that might already have them. So we knew they were going to pass down already to like the 14th or 15th spot or something like that. And so your teammate, right, Carlos, he took an ID knowing full well that he probably wouldn't make it. But it would guarantee that he gets a buy, which ultimately was the biggest prize.
Some strategy there. So that's a good point. So, that's plenty about IDs. I mean, I'm sure that the comment section will be blowing up about this too. So I'll have to monitor that. But let's just move right into the
dang
next
colluders.
Which is home cooking. So this topic is basically just talking about any new decks that you might like coming into set 5 with the spoilers that we've seen. Is there anything that catches your eye, that you might be possibly kind of looking at tweaking for Worlds? Kind of talk about that. Tyler, what do you think? Any new decks that you like?
New, you say? New. In my fantasy world, in my dreams, all these beautiful, beautiful yellow villainy hidden cards would just go perfectly with a nice pair of Cunnings in yellow boba. I can dream of future. We're gonna get Eternal format. I get to play all these cards. We banned 2 yellow villainy leaders. What do you want me to do?
Play GI. You
got GI.
Play GI, you coward.
My 3/6.
He's shielded.
He's got a shield.
Cutting him. Yeah.
I'm gonna be forced to play him. That's all I have. Everything's
Yeah,
been taken from me.
I don't think Villainy Jin Ursa is the move, guys.
It's not. He has a shield
Oh.
though, Ian.
Well, Ian, what do you got cooking up there?
Oh, is this the let's see what BN's been cooking behind the scenes?
This is
where you
We're not
just
even-
track
we're
the
not
whole
even
thing?
recording
Like,
Ian.
how do we
We're not
get
even
BN's
recording.
secret deck?
Playing in Vegas.
Yeah. Okay. So before my team yells at me, I will disclose that I have been cooking some stuff up. I can disclose some stuff. I think that one of the things that I'm looking towards is how to leverage the various, like, I think we need to figure out how many force token activators you can play in a deck that uses the force bases, or like a leader that also uses the force, and figure out like the right number, because what I found was that I think it's really easy to get the force if you want to. Like if you play a deck with the 28 HP base and you just play all Jedi or whatever villainy Sith guys, force users, um, it's really easy to get it, and it's just a matter of like how frequently how many good force token like users can you play, and then how easy is it for your opponent to take you off it once you have like that train rolling. Um, and it does feel like if you do try to go all in on it, you just like can't play any space units. I don't, because none of them are force. Like there's 0 force units so far that are in
Right.
space, and I feel like every single deck I've been building has just been like mid-range soup hero stuff, and it's either like green yellow, green blue, or red yellow, and it's like it's just like good force user cards. There's like you gain an advantage sometimes, and it's just if your opponent ever plays like 3 spaceships, you just lose the game, and I just don't know what to do about that.
Yeah, Andrew, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a little early, I guess, for me to like start like doing full decks, but have been like, talking with the team and friends and stuff like that, and some of it looks exciting. I mean, obviously the first thing I'm looking at is ECLing the new Vader unit, just wherever. Like that seems pretty good. Those are my
That's a good
colors.
place to start.
Just seems fun. I like that. Beyond that, I think Talzine looks kind of interesting. I mean, her ability, people have been kind of down on it, but I think like it changes some breakpoints. I think her stats are good. I think you can run a lot of interesting cards, like potentially like Force Lightning cards that like have historically not been like really playable at all. Could be more interesting and kind of like an aggro deck, and we haven't really had an aggro shell in those colors, so we'll have to see if she's like strong enough. What else? Qui-Gon looks interesting, although I don't really play a ton of like hero decks. Snoke just got revealed today. I mean, he's looks kind of like
It's John Tatta's
middling.
favorite leader.
Is it?
Oh man, I'm gonna have to take away some points for that. I actually hate Snoke. I think he's terrible, but
Okay, so I really enjoyed Tarkin in set 1, and like I think Rey has become popular. People realize experiential things are strong. So like I don't know if Snoke will be strong, but like I think he's worth checking out. So
yeah, CJ, what do you think?
Why play Snoke when you can play Obi-Wan and you get your XP for free?
Because then I have to play heroic cards, and I'd rather play villain and have Vader.
I got 2 hot takes for you, John. First one. It's not how you get the force or how you spend it, Ian. It's about how you can sequence it. And that's why you got to look at all the bases, because some of the bases will let you sequence in a way that maximizes the value of that card on curve, and some will make you have to play off curve or miss sequence, allow your opponent to disrupt you. That I think is going to be the dance we have to learn and see what is the most powerful way to take advantage of that. And then I will tell you right now, for my immediate testing, this is very early on, but I'm going to make a very hot take. Our boy, Big Headed Draw 2 is the best card.
Oh yeah.
In this
Kiani Moody's so messed up. Dude.
He's the most busted card. If you draw 2 cards with him on 4 or on 3, depending on the deck you're playing, oh boy, does it feel broken. It feels just absolutely game breaking. That is my hot take. Vader's great, of course, but he takes a little bit more setup. He fits into some very specific shells, but our boy Big Head Draw 2, he's the man.
It's also like the first Vader is really good because you're like running ECL, and then it's just like, can you ever play a second one? Like, did you draw timely? Can you line it up? Because if you don't have ambush with Vader, I think that card is like pretty poopy.
Yeah, you want to be timely and
I agree.
ECLing, I think, with that bad boy. Yeah.
Or
for sure.
Shan Flurry.
Shan Flurry.
Oh, Shin
Something
Flurry.
to give it ambush.
Oh, she had
Woo!
Flurry. Yeah, that also was a great card.
Yeah, that card's probably my favorite card in the set so far.
Mhm.
So many
Very
broken
cool
Boba's
cards.
card.
armor on your ambush. Crazy.
Exactly. It's crazy. So the last topic for tonight is Kashik Train of Bias. So just the other day, it was Monday, Bobby Sapphire from KTOD dropped a very controversial top X players, 5 from US, 5 from Europe video, and it has set the internet on fire. There has been multiple Reddit threads complaining, and the discords are blowing up. What do you guys think about, the top players? Was it fair? Was it bias? What do you think?
Oh yeah, I mean, ban all of KTOD, and then I can do better at my tournaments. This is a win-win for me.
They stop IDing.
No, I mean it's so silly. I mean, anybody who thinks that Alex doing the thing that Alex has done at every single tournament that I've ever seen him play in, like every time I get paired into him, he's like, "Can I just concede?" And I'm just like, "No, you cannot." And I'm not even on his team. Like we're just friends. Like we've just became acquaintances by playing together so much.
I am
And it's just like
certain.
that's just the
So
kind of
Alex
guy
has
he is.
won several events. I mean,
It-
obviously, and he's top aided several events as well. I mean, there's no surprise. I am certain, and I will lay money on the line that he has conceded his way out of more tournaments than he has actually finished by winning
Oh.
or losing.
You-
Probably, yeah.
You guys
he
might.
would have like
tried
6
to see this way
PQ
out of
wins,
tournaments.
dude. I swear to God, he would have like 6
The-
PQ wins. If
I'm
he did
telling. The first time I ever met Alex, he was trying to concede to me in the finals of a PQ. The first
that.
PQ we
I
went. to.
remember
Didn't even
he
know him.
He
told
was
me
trying
that.
to. He was like, "I want to go home," and I'm like, "No, we're playing." He's like, "No, I really am tired. I want to go home." Like,
And this was
honestly.
before he even had his
We even-
invite too.
yeah.
He was like, "I'll just get the next
Yeah.
one, dude."
Yeah,
it's
he
fine.
said that. He said that. I'm telling you, this man, when he's feeling something, he's feeling it. But I don't think that was really the question here, though, Tata. I think the question here was about Mike's hot
Sure.
take
Yeah.
player list, right? His rankings. Where
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I
You-
just go completely
you
off
went ballistic, which I appreciate, though. But
topic?
here's where none of us were on that list minus you, John, minus the professor himself. I wasn't on the list. Ian wasn't on the list. Tyler, Andrew, none of us were on the list. I think if you're looking at that list and you're upset you're not on it, I think it's good that you should believe in yourself and you should believe that it's a disrespect to not be on it. But I promise you, most of you people saying that, you really weren't even in the conversation. Like there is, based on results, that's all we have to go off of, which does require that you are traveling to all these events, right? I think I've only played in 2 events, really. And so you have to travel to all these events, which is a big thing to do, right? It's a big investment of your time and your resources. And then you also have to do extremely well when you're actually there in the moment, right? We're not taking into consideration what you did online. We're not taking into consideration one event you spiked. We're not taking into consideration all the store showdowns you won in Europe, right? We're looking at the biggest events and we're looking, did you place in them? Did you do well? And how many have you gone to and how often and consistently are you doing well? And that list is going to be pretty small. That's how it is.
I'm just more upset that Bobby didn't rank the European and U.S. players together so that we can have more divisiveness in the community.
More
about-
controversy.
Yeah, more controversy of who was where. Yeah, I mean his list was just literally a bare minimum. Did you top 8 a major event, and then of people who did, basically ranking those individuals, which I think is a totally fair thing to do when we don't have that many incredibly large tournaments. So it is really hard to figure out, like, oh, well, if someone has like 3 PQ wins, is that equivalent to like some other metric of like top 8ing a sector or something? It's like, yeah, you could like create some system you want, but no one's ever going to agree on it. So it's like,
Yeah.
he's trying to be as objective as he could, but also using subjectiveness in terms of people he's met and seen play. And like, obviously he's played with his fellow teammates the most, so he knows that they're really good. But anybody who's played against these guys know that John Tatta is a top 5 player in the world, knows that Alex is probably the best player in the world, or if not him, or it's either John or Wu. Like it's the 3 of them against the world, in my opinion. But it's just, you just play with the guys one time, you see what they're doing, and it's just like, holy shit, I just don't know what the hell I'm doing, and that's why you're not winning the tournaments, guys. Like,
Well, it
I
makes
don't know.
3v3 tournaments pretty fun. Let me tell you, when we get to play together. So,
It was literally your 3v3 tournament
yeah,
as
it
the top
was.
3. I love it.
Tyler, what do you think about the video and maybe like a best player list?
No, I think the video is totally fine. It's, obviously you try to take as much objective information as you could in it, but it's still just incredibly subjective and opinionated. He started off by saying it's his opinion. That's what we're going into it. Of course, it's going to be a subjective view. The whole idea is to stir up all this talk and thing. You want to see every other team make a video, be like, these are the actual best 10 players of the world, and they'll have their biased opinion on it. That's the whole point. I think it's definitely a more interesting conversation and talk. I play one game differently, at Richmond, and I would make a case for myself there, but I think it's a lot of fun. It's going to get the conversation started. We're still like 2 months away from Vegas, and then we get to really show the stuff. I do though like the split between the NA and EU, because I think that is a interesting topic it's going to own. Because Vegas is going to be the first time we're going to see complete clash of the NA versus the EU, and the meta games that they've shown in that. So I think it's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, sure. Andrew, what do you think?
All right, I have a huge problem with Mike's list, and that is the only Team Secret member, Michael, is not ranked higher. No, I'm kidding. I thought it was great. It's just like a conversation starter, right? I mean, it's like, it's like people posting power rankings with the NFL. It's like I'm a huge NFL fan, and people are always pissed off. Oh, yeah, my team and this and that. It's like, it's just like a list that somebody made. Like, it's like, and people could say, oh, well, this is going to predict future success and or whatever. It's like, yeah, it might, but also it's like, we're all very good players, and it's like we all play against each other all the time. So it's like, I think the Galactics in Vegas is going to be very competitive. It's going to be a great event no matter what. But I think it is really good to release content like that to, get engagement and also get people like familiar with some of these players, right?
Yeah,
like we're getting a lot of new players. I mean, we saw the issues with the IDs, right? That's because the game is growing. There are new players, there are inexperienced players that really like the game, but like they're learning, and getting them familiar with like people they're going to see on stream, people they might meet at the event, like, understanding like the matchups, like, oh, like, like who's Alex Blandon? Like, well, he's this guy that he's on Han. Oh, he's a pretty good Han player. Like, I play Han. I want to watch his match. Stuff like that, I think is really valuable for viewers. And then like for us as a players, just for like, shit talking, having fun, whatever.
Yeah.
Like
right.
it's just, it's just for fun. And it is like, like we've all said here, it's something to kind of, increase the competition, right? You're like, well, actually, I can hang with these guys, and like that makes us all want to play better, which is going to make a better tournament experience, which is make a better viewer experience. So yeah, I think all that's really good.
Well, and we've only really had three real events, really. So like,
right.
people who missed top 8 by like one win at these events, like they could say, well, I could have been in the conversation, and that's true. I think once they start like a point system, that counts everything, then you might really see the players maybe that you haven't heard of yet really kind of peek in there. So we'll have to see how that really goes.
I mean, how dare Bobby not use my SCG top cuts as equivalent to
my cash finishes.
I have 2 SCG wins, and still
Ian,
it's like,
did you ever look at your early Han decks? Boy, come on.
That's true.
Oh,
well, that is the end of the show, and with no bias whatsoever, and completely objective results, the winner is Chrono. I don't know how that happened.
Can't win a tournament, but can win this game show, Tatta. That's how.
So you now have your 30 seconds of fame.
Awesome.
Please address all of your fans.
Yeah, I'm gonna address a very important issue here in the Star Wars Unlimited community. Please stop going into Discords and going on Reddit and going on YouTube and talking about what you believe a matchup percentage is. Stop saying it. Unless you can articulate why that is the case, which 99% of you can't, and can understand who you're playing and the player skill of those people, and actually be able to measure that in a quantifiable way, you really don't know. right? Leave that to some of the professionals out there that have been playing the decks for a really long time, have played a million matchups and have that data. Because trust me, even in our own Discord, our deck threads, boy, people are way off base on a lot of these matchups. And it's always, oh, I'm favorite here, oh, I'm favorite there. That they love saying that. Don't, instead of just saying what your percentage is, which is just made up, say why, what card, what line, what avenue you take into victory that's giving you that edge. That's a way more constructive conversation, and I think it will benefit everyone in the community.
Love it. So that's going to be it for episode 1, and hope you enjoyed it. And please come back every Thursday at noon Eastern time. See you next time.